Hollywood's golden age sparkled with glitz and glamour, an era of dazzling premieres, larger-than-life movie stars, and a dream factory that shaped the world's imagination. But behind the shimmering lights and carefully polished images, there lurked a darker world, one of scandals, cover-ups, and secrets that the studios fought desperately to keep hidden. This is not the Hollywood you see on the silver screen. This is the hidden story of the golden age, the scandals that shook the industry, the cover-ups that rewrote history, and the price stars paid for fame. The birth of the golden age. When people think of Hollywood's golden age, they often picture the glamorous decades between the 1920s and the early 1960s. These were the years when Hollywood became more than just an industry, it became a myth-making machine. The studio system dominated everything. Companies like MGM, Warner Brothers, Paramount, RKO, and 20th Century Fox didn't just produce films, they owned the stars. Contracts were strict, often binding actors for years, dictating their appearance, their public behavior, and even their personal relationships. To the world, Hollywood projected perfection, flawless faces, enchanting romances, and glittering premieres. But beneath that image, scandals brewed. Affairs, addictions, tragedies, and crimes were all carefully buried under the golden sheen. And it worked, at least for a while. Studios as puppeteers. In the golden age, movie stars weren't free agents, they were property. Studios invested millions into their public personas. If a scandal threatened to ruin a star's image, the studio's publicity department would step in with ruthless efficiency. Reporters who dug too deep risked losing access to Hollywood's biggest names. Stories were traded. One damaging article about a star might be suppressed if a different story was leaked instead. Police departments, eager to keep Hollywood money flowing, often looked the other way. This power to control narratives created the perfect environment for scandal, because when you silence the truth, rumors only grow louder. The Fatty Arbuckle trial. One of the earliest and most notorious scandals of Hollywood erupted in 1921. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, a beloved silent film comedian, was accused of a crime so shocking it nearly destroyed the entire industry. At a party in San Francisco, Arbuckle was accused of assaulting and causing the death of young actress Virginia Rappe. Newspapers exploded with lurid headlines, painting Arbuckle as a monster. The case became one of the first great Hollywood scandals to dominate international headlines. Although Arbuckle was acquitted after 3 trials, the damage was done. His career was destroyed. The scandal shocked audiences who had believed Hollywood stars were paragons of virtue. For the studios, this was a wake-up call. If Hollywood was going to survive, scandals had to be controlled, silenced, or erased before they reached the public. The rise of the fixers. Enter the Hollywood fixers. Studios hired powerful men whose job was to keep stars out of trouble, or at least out of the papers. One of the most famous was Eddie Mannix, a fixer for MGM. Mannix had deep connections with police, journalists, and even the mob. If a star got into trouble, whether it was a bar fight, a hit-and-run, or a secret affair, Mannix and his team would swoop in. They paid off witnesses, buried police reports, and fed journalists alternative stories. In some cases, stars were even forced into marriages to cover up scandals. A sudden engagement or whirlwind wedding was the perfect distraction for the press. The message was clear: Hollywood's image must remain untarnished, no matter the cost. The studio cover UPS. Behind the scenes, the studios often hid the darkest secrets of their stars. Drugs and alcohol. Many stars struggled with addiction, fueled by the pressure to perform. Studios quietly arranged rehab or medical care, while the public saw only perfection. Affairs, romantic entanglements that didn't fit the studio's image were quickly hidden. If 2 stars were secretly involved, the studio might arrange fake dates with others to throw reporters off the scent. Crimes. In some cases, stars were involved in serious incidents, drunk driving accidents, assaults, even suspicious deaths. Instead of facing justice, they were shielded by the studio system. The result? A Hollywood that looked pristine on the surface, but underneath was a web of secrecy and lies. The tragic tale of Jean Harlow. One of the brightest stars of the 1930s was Jean Harlow, the original blonde bombshell. Her life was the stuff of legend, fame, fortune, and beauty. But behind the scenes, her story was riddled with tragedy. Harlow married Paul Byrne, a producer at MGM. Just months after their wedding, Byrne was found dead, an apparent suicide. The studios moved quickly, releasing statements and carefully controlling the narrative. Rumors swirled of affairs, abuse, and secrets that were never fully explained. Harlow herself died tragically young, at just 26, from kidney failure. Fans were devastated, but whispers of scandal never left her name. Her story was a reminder that beneath Hollywood's glamorous surface lay fragile, very human lives. The murder of Thelma Todd. In 1935, the body of actress Thelma Todd was found in her car, parked in a garage above a cafe she co-owned. She was only 29 years old. The official cause of death was carbon monoxide poisoning. Authorities suggested it was an accident, or perhaps suicide. But rumors of foul play quickly spread. Todd had connections with gangsters, lovers, and rivalries that gave rise to countless theories. The truth was never fully uncovered. The case remains one of old Hollywood's enduring mysteries, a symbol of how the glamorous world of stars could so easily turn deadly. The pressure of perfection. For many stars, the pressure to maintain an image was unbearable. They were expected to be flawless, on screen and off. Weight was strictly controlled. Contracts sometimes included clauses requiring stars to stay within certain measurements. Personal relationships were dictated by the studio. Stars were forced into or out of romances to suit the publicity machine. Even sexuality was tightly monitored. In an era when being openly gay could end a career, many stars lived double lives. The golden age of Hollywood created legends, but it also crushed countless spirits under the weight of its illusions. As we've seen, the golden age of Hollywood was not all glitter and gold. Behind the glamorous premieres and flashing cameras, scandals and tragedies haunted even the brightest stars. But this is only the beginning. In Part 2, we'll dive deeper into Hollywood's darkest secrets, the affairs, the blackmail, and the scandals that studios fought hardest to keep hidden. Subscribe and join us as we continue unraveling the truth behind Hollywood's golden age. Behind the glittering spotlight of old Hollywood, the scandals grew darker. If Part 1 revealed the cracks in the glamorous facade, Part 2 will drag us deeper into the world of secret cover-ups, ruined careers, and tragedies that were never supposed to reach the public. This is the side of Hollywood the studios fought to keep buried. Studio control, the puppet masters of scandal. Hollywood in the 1930s and 40s wasn't just about entertainment, it was an empire. Studios like MGM, Warner Brothers, and Paramount weren't only making movies, they were manufacturing images. Actors weren't free individuals, they were investments. If a star was caught in a scandal, it wasn't just embarrassing, it could cost millions at the box office. To protect themselves, studios created elaborate systems to cover up crimes, silence the press, and rewrite reality. One infamous figure was Eddie Mannix, MGM's fixer. His job wasn't producing films. It was covering up Hollywood's dirt, from affairs to accidental deaths. If a star got drunk and crashed a car, Mannix made sure newspapers never saw the police report. If an actor was secretly gay in a time when it could end their career, Mannix paid off the tabloids and reshaped the story. The public thought they were watching perfect idols. In truth, they were watching carefully crafted lies. The death of Thelma Todd, murder, suicide, or studio secret. In December 1935, Hollywood was shaken by the mysterious death of Thelma Todd, a glamorous actress known for her comedic roles. She was found dead in her car, slumped over the steering wheel, with carbon monoxide poisoning. The official ruling, accidental death. But the details never added up. Thelma had been running a cafe that became popular among Hollywood's elite. Some believed she was caught in a love triangle with mob figures. Others suspected she had knowledge of studio secrets and was silenced. Friends insisted she was in good spirits and had no reason to take her own life. Yet, despite suspicious evidence, the case was closed quickly. Why? Many historians believe the studios pressured authorities to avoid scandal. A headline screaming, "Hollywood star murdered by mob," would have destroyed public trust. So the truth about Thelma Todd's death was buried, just another body in the studio system's shadow. Judy Garland, the tragic cost of stardom. The story of Judy Garland, star of The Wizard of Oz, is one of the most heartbreaking examples of how the golden age chewed up and destroyed its own icons. Behind her radiant smile, Garland lived a nightmare. Pills from childhood. At just 16, studio executives fed her amphetamines to keep her thin and awake for grueling shoots, then barbiturates to force her to sleep. Body shaming, MGM constantly criticized her looks, calling her the fat little pig with pigtails. Controlled life, every aspect of her existence was micromanaged, from what she ate to whom she dated. Garland's descent into addiction wasn't a personal failure, it was the direct result of the studio machine. Her tragic story revealed the hidden abuse of young stars in Hollywood, a system that put profits over human lives. The secret lives of closeted stars. Hollywood also built its empire on secrets about sexuality. During the Golden Age, being gay wasn't just taboo, it was a career-ending scandal. So studios forced many stars to live double lives. Rock Hudson, though rising later in the 50s, was marketed as the perfect romantic lead, while his real identity was kept hidden by strict studio contracts. Cary Grant and Randolph Scott shared a home for years, yet their relationship was disguised by staged publicity photos of Grant with women. Even earlier stars were forced into lavender marriages, fake relationships arranged by studios to keep up appearances. The studios weren't just making films. They were controlling reality itself, deciding what the public could and couldn't know. The Lana Turner and Johnny Stompanato scandal. By the 1950s, cracks in the Golden Age system were beginning to show, and one scandal in particular exposed just how dark things could get. Lana Turner, one of MGM's biggest stars, had a turbulent relationship with mobster Johnny Stompanato. He was abusive, controlling, and deeply tied to organized crime. In 1958, after a violent argument in Turner's home, her teenage daughter Cheryl Crane stabbed Stompanato to death. The trial was explosive, tabloids swarmed, reporters painted Turner as a tragic figure, and the case ended with a ruling of justifiable homicide. But behind the headlines, it was another example of Hollywood's dangerous entanglement with the mob, scandals, and broken homes. The studio system crumbles. By the late 1950s, the studio machine that had once kept scandals under control began to fall apart. Television was rising, antitrust lawsuits broke up studio monopolies, and the old power brokers were losing their grip. Without the same level of censorship and control, scandals began leaking into the public eye more freely. Stories of drugs, affairs, abuse, and mob ties became harder to contain. The golden mask of Hollywood was cracking, and the world was finally catching glimpses of the darkness underneath. The scandals of old Hollywood weren't just accidents of fame, they were built into the very foundation of the industry. In Part 3, we'll dive into the final days of the Golden Age, when the facade completely collapsed. From Marilyn Monroe's mysterious death to the downfall of Hollywood's untouchable icons, the darkest secrets were about to explode. Stay tuned. The final scandals that shattered Hollywood's Golden Age. By the late 1950s, the shine of Hollywood's Golden Age was fading. The cracks in the glamorous facade were widening, and no amount of studio control could keep the scandals from spilling into the public eye. In this final chapter, we uncover the explosive stories that marked the end of an era, from mysterious deaths to shocking betrayals, and how the Dream Factory finally lost its grip on reality. The rise and fall of Marilyn Monroe. If one name defines both the glamour and tragedy of Hollywood's Golden Age, it's Marilyn Monroe. She was the ultimate star, blonde, beautiful, and magnetic. But behind the screen, Monroe lived a life filled with loneliness, exploitation, and scandal. Studio creation, Monroe was molded into a sex symbol by Fox executives, stripped of her original identity. Exploitation, she was pushed into roles that emphasized her image rather than her talent. Despite being intelligent and ambitious, Monroe was constantly underestimated. Affairs and politics, her rumored affairs with President John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy fueled endless speculation. On August 5, 1962, Monroe was found dead in her Los Angeles home from an overdose of barbiturates. The official ruling was probable suicide, but suspicions linger. Some believed she was silenced because of her connections to the Kennedys. Others thought she was a victim of the same studio system that had both made and destroyed her. Marilyn's death symbolized the end of innocence in Hollywood. The public began to see the industry not as a dream machine, but as a place that chewed up stars and left tragedy in its wake. The mob and Hollywood's dark dealings. Throughout the Golden Age, organized crime had a shadowy presence in Hollywood. Mobsters controlled nightclubs, unions, and even parts of the studio system. Actors and producers often found themselves caught in dangerous relationships with underworld figures. Bugsy Siegel, the infamous gangster, was tied to Hollywood through friends and business connections. Johnny Stompanato, Lana Turner's lover, was a mob enforcer whose violent end shocked the industry. Rumors swirled that mob money even financed certain productions or was laundered through film deals. While the public saw Hollywood as a magical escape, the reality was far grittier. The stars they idolized were often entangled with men who lived outside the law. Elizabeth Taylor, scandal and stardom combined. If Marilyn Monroe represented tragedy, Elizabeth Taylor embodied resilience amid scandal. Her personal life became one of the most publicized in history. Married 8 times to 7 different men. Accused of being a homewrecker when she began a romance with Eddie Fisher, who was married to Debbie Reynolds at the time. Known for her fiery personality, she turned scandals into headlines, and headlines into ticket sales. Taylor's life revealed a shift. Stars were no longer just victims of studio control. By the 1960s, some stars began using scandals to fuel their careers, embracing the very publicity that once destroyed reputations. The studio system collapses. By the early 1960s, the studio system was crumbling. Antitrust laws had forced studios to sell their theater chains. Television was dominating American living rooms. Independent producers were rising, and the old guard no longer held absolute power. Without the heavy hand of studio fixers, scandals became harder to hide. Tabloids flourished, gossip columns thrived, and stars' private lives became public property. The dreamlike control of the golden age was gone, and Hollywood was entering a more chaotic, unpredictable period. The scandalous death of George Reeves. In 1959, George Reeves, star of Adventures of Superman, was found dead in his home with a gunshot wound to the head. The official verdict: suicide. But rumors persisted. Reeves was entangled in a complicated love affair with the wife of a powerful Hollywood executive. Some suspected foul play, believing the case had been covered up to protect influential figures. Reeves' death reflected a growing theme of the late Golden Age: stars were not just vulnerable to scandal, but sometimes destroyed by it. Hollywood's transformation. By the end of the 1960s, Hollywood was no longer the polished dream factory it once was. The Golden Age had been replaced by a new wave of gritty, experimental cinema. Studios could no longer silence the press or reshape reality with as much ease. What emerged was a Hollywood more reflective of real life, raw, chaotic, and filled with visible flaws. But the myths of the Golden Age, and its scandals, continue to fascinate to this day. The Golden Age of Hollywood promised glamour, romance, and perfection. But behind the curtain was a world of secrets, cover-ups, and tragedies that remind us that even the brightest stars cast shadows. Thank you for joining this journey through the untold scandals of old Hollywood. If you enjoyed this series, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from history's hidden corners.